And with that, we are getting ready for the grande finale, for a very powerful one of the Metal Sub Summit. So it's my pleasure to introduce our next and final speaker of today, someone who has been standing on exactly this stage 1.5 years ago for the very first edition of the Metal Sub Summit. So someone who's no stranger to the stage, it's Dr. Alexander Becker, CEO of the GMH Group. Alexander, please come up. So last time you gave us a very bold vision of green steel and what GMH Group is doing to decarbonize steel production and do something positive for the climate. And today we're very excited to hear about how is the strategy of the GMH Group evolving when it comes to the GMH portfolio, when it comes to investment. You've recently made some acquisitions also in Europe. So we're very excited to hear what the future will bring and where you are going to steer the GMH Group into the future. Stage is yours, Alex.
Thank you very much, Sebastian. It's as always an honor to be here with you and your team. I hope, can you hear me quite well? So I'm very happy to see so many young and motivated people in the steel industry. It's always a pleasure to be here. I have to tell you, last year was a very difficult year for the steel industry, but not because the prices went down, the volumes went down, because there was no MH summit last year. So it was an extremely difficult year for us. So I'm very happy that now the summit takes place again. It's really, really nice to see so many cool people all together. Yeah, what I would like to present to you today is how the vertical integration in the steel industry is possible and how it can help to survive in an even difficult market such as the European market currently. A little glance about GMH Gruppe. Many of you or some of you still might know or still might not know the company. It's a family-owned company. 2.3 billion euro sales, of course, less than ThyssenKrupp or Salzgitter, but nevertheless for a family-owned company, it's quite a significant revenue. We call ourselves the greenest steel company in Germany. We are very, very much focused on producing green steel, on working in a very sustainable way. And this started many, many years before I started. This started 30 years ago already. We have a family that is owning the company that is also very much interested and focused on sustainability. We are present in 3 business fields. The first one is circular economy. We are one of the top 3 scrap suppliers in Germany. So we collect more or less, or we gather almost 2 million tons of scrap. 1.3 we use by ourselves, the rest we sell on the market. Our core product is green steel, SBQ steel up to 125 millimeters. With the green steel production, we generate more or less 1 billion. And the segment that we want to increase over the next years is the heavy forging segment. We, as of today, have become the biggest open die forging company in Europe already, with a little bit more than 800 million euro revenue with open die forging parts. You can see here a crankshaft 14 meters long going in very, very heavy engines. As you know, there are 2 ways of producing steel. I believe I don't have to tell you. There's the original way of producing steel, the blast furnace road, causing a lot of CO2, and there's the electric arc furnace route. I believe you're quite familiar with the both routes of producing steel. GMH Gruppe in the past produced steel with blast furnaces. Luckily, Dr. Grossmann, the founder of the company, decided to explode these furnaces and build new electric arc furnaces. Nowadays, we have 5 production locations in which we produce steel, and they are all running with electric arc furnaces, which originally gives us already a relatively low CO2 footprint, but I'm very sure you're all aware of this. What this means in regards to CO2, you can see here, we had a relatively high CO2 output in the past with 4 million tons of CO2. We reached 800,000 tons of CO2 in 2019. And then as the management team, we gave us the target to go down to zero by 2039. Why 2039? Because Mercedes-Benz is one of our biggest customers, and he decided to go for 2039, and we decided to follow him. But then relatively fast, we found out, although we, as the management team, we are still relatively young, but we decided that 2039 is boring. It's much too far away. It's too far away, and we decided to go for 2030, because 2030 in the steel industry feels like tomorrow, and we gave ourselves the target of 400,000 in 2030, which is ambitious. We have 19 production facilities, and they all developed a plan. And last year we have already reached 630,000. So there's still a way to go, but we are all extremely focused on achieving this target. And besides only making money, which of course should be the main focus, our focus is working as sustainable as possible. This is, I have to tell you, extremely motivating also for me as a CEO. What we have developed during the last 4 years is an extremely green steel, or a steel with a very, very low CO2 footprint. You can see the classical blast furnace route, scope 1, scope 2, 2 tons. That's the traditional electric steel route. And then we were able to develop biochar to substitute the fossil coal. And we use green electricity, and with this, we are able to now provide a steel to the industry which is very, very close to zero. And yes, the war in the Ukraine was a drawback in regards to green steel. But now, since 18 months, we feel a revival. We see more and more customers again being seriously interested in green steel, and also finally paying a certain add-on for green steel. That's extremely motivating for us, and yeah, gives us the courage to continue this path. Now, talking a little bit about value chains, which is the focus of today. Why is it so nice to be vertically integrated? That's the output. That's the crankshaft you saw in the beginning. Where does it start? Scrap. So we go out, we gather the scrap, we then produce the steel. That's then the final ingot. Then we forge the crankshaft. Then we do the machining. These are 4 different locations of the group involved, and that's the final product. A crankshaft up to 40 meters long, coming out of scrap. Now guess how many companies in Europe are able to provide this solution to customers, such as MAN Energy or Wärtsilä? Only GmbH. There's one more competitor in Japan and one in the United States. And this is a really nice process, and that's our target for most of our products, to generate as much value as possible for our customers coming out of scrap. A second example we would like to show you is a machined conrod. That's an example of Caterpillar and Liebherr. We start again with the scrap. We produce the steel in Georgsmarienhütte in our mother steel plant. That's then how the bar looks like. We then transfer the product to Schmiedak. That's our forging shop. That's how it looks like. We have now invested in machining shops, and we are now able to send the complete connecting rod to our final customers. These are just 2 of many, many examples we are having now in the group. And we started to think the product really from the end. And we have a lot of capabilities in the group. As I mentioned, we have 19 different production facilities, and we connected them much, much better now. We are still not perfect. There's still a lot of synergies possible, but it's our target coming from scrap, and to produce a final product for our customers. And that's extremely motivating also for our people, for our group, for our managers, starting to work together and generate values over more than one production facility only. Having said that, we have also, or luckily, we are again in a position that we can purchase companies. In the past, we were in a little bit more difficult financial situation. This has changed, and since 2 years, we are again in the very nice position that we are able to look around in the market, and we want to grow all 3 fields. What are our main criteria? We want to buy companies that offer a profitable business model. They need to be sustainable. We would never buy a blast furnace company, to be very frank. The companies we are looking for should be among the top 5 in Europe, and we need to have steel. We don't want to buy casting products or companies or plastic companies. We always want to stay in steel. So we always want to stay within these 3 fields of business. Last year, we were finally able to buy a new scrap company. It was Alba. Some of you might know Alba was a big scrap company. It still is in Germany. We were able to buy one scrap yard in the Saarland. And we were also able to buy a very, very nice company I will show to you on the next slide, called Kint & Co., which is the global leader for tool steel, which is another example what we do out of our steel products. That's Alba. That's a scrapyard in Buß in Germany. Today, processing 60,000 tons of scrap. We want to increase the output to 250,000 tons relatively fast. And as you might know, the demand of scrap is increasing a lot with ArcelorMittal, Saarstahl, ThyssenKrupp, and Salzgitter building new electric arc furnaces. So we believe in the growth of scrap, and we would like to participate in this growth. The second step is Kint & Co. As some of you might know, I was responsible, or I had the honor to be responsible for the forging business at ThyssenKrupp in the past. And at ThyssenKrupp, we only bought tool steel from this company, Kint & Co. And I had a lot of fights with my COO, trying to convince him to also buy from somewhere else. And he said, no, we as ThyssenKrupp, we have the best crankshafts, the best conrods, and we need the best tool steel, and this has to be Kint & Co. And that's the best hot work tool steel supplier on the planet. I'm fully convinced of this, and these are the tools for die forging parts. As ThyssenKrupp, we sent these tools to China, US, Brazil, India, and of course, Germany. This counts for many, many forging companies that really need a high quality, like Hirschvogel, Schaeffler, etc. They all go for Kint & Co. Same counts for die casting and extrusion. It's a very, very nice company, roughly 120 million euro of revenue, 135 years family owned. So that's also something I would like to tell you as a takeaway. The times are very difficult at the moment, especially in Europe. But on the other side, it's a very good chance for opportunities. At the moment, a lot of companies are for sale that we would have never thought 2 years ago that would come up for sale. And that's also how we motivate ourselves, how we motivate our management team. Let's go out and look for opportunities. And this was a brilliant opportunity, and we're extremely happy that we were able to buy this company and increase our heavy forging business. That's already my last slide. Short key takeaway. Scrap is the foundation, at least if you run an electric arc furnace. So optimal scrap management is essential for sustainable steel production. We are extremely happy that we have own scrap yards. Efficient steel production. Of course, we need to be as efficient as possible, because you all know steel, although SBQ steel may be being a little bit different, you still need to be brutally competitive. Value-added processes. We want to create more value for our customers with the steel we produce, and also circular economy. We find more and more customers where we can get our scrap back and bring it back in the process. So we are very happy in being extremely vertically integrated, and this experience I wanted to share with you today. Thank you very much for your attention. I know it's not being easy to be the last one, but I hope you're still awake. Thank you. Wow, you guys are fast. The questions.
Yeah, thank you very much, Alex, for this energetic presentation at the end of the program. So I think I didn't promise too much. It's great to see how you're leading this company, how you are reshaping this portfolio and making investments into the future, because companies invest in companies to generate future cash flows. And it looks like you have had some great opportunities and you acted on it.
Thank you.
That's excellent.
But this does not only count for me, this counts for all the managers in GMH. We really enjoy ourselves, Sebastian, really. You can ask these guys over there or Luciana. We enjoy ourselves. Thank you.
So we already have some questions for you up here on the board, but checking in the room. So maybe we get started while people in the room are thinking about it. So we heard about the topic of export restrictions on scrap. Some steel mills are lobbying. They say we need the scrap here. We don't want that so much scrap gets exported. Obviously, the scrap trading companies and collecting companies, they have a different opinion. They say the scrap should go to whoever pays the highest price. Now you are both. You are a scrap trading company and you are a steel mill. So interesting question for you.
Yeah. Shall I?
Yeah.
This is a very interesting question. We, of course, discussing internally. We have quite a nice dispute inside our own company, because we as a steel producer, we believe it's nice, or it would be helpful to have an export restriction. Of course, our scrap guys, they tell us not to go ahead. My personal view is, and that's also how we position ourselves at the moment, we still do not need export restriction. There's still enough scrap available. So for the moment, I don't see this need. Might change in a few years from now, but for the moment, at least we as GMH, we are not pushing into this direction. We are only pushing for more competitive energy prices. That's much more important for us at the moment.
And how are we, or is Europe doing on that topic of more competitive electricity prices?
I can tell you that we have heard a lot of promises in the last 2 years from a lot of politicians in Germany. And at the end, we answered, thank you very much for nothing, or for anything. At the moment, we have not received any support from the German government so far, but this was the last government. The new government just started, so we have to be positive. We have a lot of faith in the new government. With Katharina Reich, we have a very, very good Minister of Economy. And I can tell you, Katharina, she thinks exactly like we think. She's also a very close friend of mine, and she's really good. You will be extremely impressed by her. She's really, really good. You cannot compare her from what we have seen in the last years. Not only Habeck, also the one before, the Altmaier. Horrible. For the third biggest economy of the world, having politicians like that, that's really embarrassing. But this will change now, so we have high expectations, really high expectations. Something will happen.
That's good to hear, something positive coming out of it. Here in the first row.
I mean, with the presentation being focused on vertical integration, is kind of building your own power generation something that comes to mind as a strategic decision?
Our own power generation?
Yeah, for example.
Yeah, we have an owner that is traditionally extremely interested in energy. We're also discussing this, and at the moment we don't see this feasible way. except of solar panels and some windmills, but we don't see at the moment that we will buy an own. No, we don't see anything beside solar panels and windmills for us at the moment.
Okay, maybe taking one question from here, the topic of M&A, integrating different company cultures. So there's a reason why Lufthansa bought Austrian and Swiss, and maybe not Air France and British Airways, because maybe that also from a cultural perspective was easier to integrate. How is it as a steel mill buying a scrap trading companies? What are the challenges also from a company culture perspective?
I hope that nothing leaked, but right now we are very close of buying a scrap company or a scrap dealer.
Well, you bought last year, you bought in
okay,
the Saar
we bought
area,
a
scrap trading company.
You're right.
So
Right now we are close to buy a very big one. Okay, understood the question. How does it feel? It feels good because we have a very good scrap business already. It's extremely professional. We believe that we trade scrap in a very efficient way compared to our competitors. And it's nice to integrate a new company inside a company that is running well. And I'm also fully convinced that you can only, or you should only start M&A activities once you have a strong management team by yourself. Because if you go out and buy new companies, but you don't have a good management inside your own facilities, you will probably have a heart attack. That's also why we took us 2-3 years to now have a strong team and having the courage and capability to integrate new companies into the group.
this one is a bit provocative. Given all the challenges in Europe to produce steel, you mentioned electricity prices. Why would you to continue to produce steel? You're already in downstream activities. Why wouldn't you just buy the steel from somewhere else and then produce the products out of it?
It's quite simple. Steel is the basis of almost everything. In Germany, everybody of us, we use an average 400 kilograms of steel per year. 400 kilograms is a lot. Why? Or how do I come to this figure? 32 million tons divided by 85 million people, it's more or less 400 kilo we use per capita. Why so much? Because we like to run, sometimes we take the train, although it doesn't arrive on time very often. There's still a lot of us that give it a chance. So the trains, they need steel. They're also cars. We produce in Germany 4.5 million cars per year. They all need steel. We now produce military tanks. They all need steel. We need scissors. After Corona, we again allowed to cut our hair. Although not everybody's taking the opportunity, but it's happening. And even scissors, they are made out of steel. So wherever you look around, there's a lot of steel around. So it would be really a pity to lose this first product in the supply chain. It's a strategic must to have a steel production in Europe. Nevertheless, I believe that the production might shrink over the next years. We were in the range of 200 million. Now it's 145, talking about whole Europe. Probably it will go further down because of electric mobility. So the original engine products, they will get less. But I believe 100 to 120 million tons will remain in Europe, and they should remain in Europe. It's a strategic must to have a steel production in Europe.
That's good to hear.
But we have to be competitive.
For sure. For sure. We talked about green raw materials. There was someone here from Eramet discussing how Eramet is investing to decarbonize manganese production. We had an excellent presentation from Chris on the topic of how CBMM is decarbonizing ferroniobium production. When you look at raw materials outside of scrap, you need to alloy with certain elements, nickel, chrome, molybdenum, niobium. Where do you see the challenges there on the scope 3?
The challenge will be to not depend on one country only. Today we strongly depend on Russia and China, which both together, they're like, more than 40% of the planet, of the territory. So it's very difficult not to be competitive, not to be dependent on Russia and China, but we still need to develop further sources, hopefully in Africa and South America, but this will require a lot of investment. So important is to have a broad supply base and also to improve our CO2. For Scope 3, this is a big challenge for all of us. At the moment, I believe this will still take a few years, unfortunately. But we really have to get there.
Yeah. And I think really when we look at the presentations we had here, we've seen the leaders in this industry. So they have already done investment and invested a lot of work in their supply chain and in their operation. That's why they're standing here on stage. But there's still a lot of companies that haven't done this homework. And they cannot even tell you what is the PCF when they produce nickel, for example. They say, oh, we should get a better price. But they haven't even audited their own process. The engineers tell me it's very low. So it's really still a lot to be done in this industry.
And that's where we also depend on you, Sebastian, and your company, because if everybody spreads out and tries it on his own, it's difficult.
Standards are really important. I agree with that. So maybe we have time for one last question. Frank is shaking his head. No? Maybe something positive. Do you feel a positive effect from the recent change in politics in Germany? You already partly answered this, but maybe we finish on this one.
A lot. I was also very depressed the last 3.5 years because we had the worst government in Germany that we had after the Second World War, unfortunately. And this cost of billions and billions of euro. We lost a lot of value in Germany. We were the only country that was not growing during the last 3 years. So a lot of production went from Germany into other countries. This we have to change now. So I'm very positive with the new government, but I'm also positive with Europe. We are still the best planet, or we are the best continent in the world. We have the best engineers here in Germany, but we need to start to be more positive again. But I believe the new government will help us to do this. So I'm very, very confident and happy to be here in Europe. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alex. Finishing on a positive note. Thanks for coming. Thank you for the inspiring presentation.
Thank you. Hope to see you again next year or in 2 years only.
In 2 years. It's like the Olympics, right? We don't do it every year so that it
will be 2 very long years for me.
It remains special. But we're looking forward what you will have to present.